If you are seeing this, then you are in the process or in a period of breaking free from from the past and from what was holding on to you. But you are also being called to forgive. Forgive the past, forgive the people. Ah, look at that. Wow. Okay, I'm just, shuffling back and forth. If you're new here, then I shuffle back and forth like this as I'm channeling. I didn't take that one. Oh, it's there. Um, it just keeps me in that zone. Okay. So, anyway, in order to get to this higher timeline and receive these things that just fell out, you you have to forgive the past. Ooh, you have to forgive the past. You have to forgive the people. It doesn't mean you're forgiving them for what they did to you, but take the lessons as lessons learned. That's what I'm seeing, and that you know you're going to find purpose in anything that was done to you because it's going to be different for everyone. Ding, you're going to find purpose in that. Okay, so just forgive it. Unfortunately, it's something that you had to go through in order to become the person that you are. Um, and again, they're showing me that contract. So it's like a soul contract. Like we agreed to experience these things. I know how hard it is to accept that, you know, ding again. It's hard to accept that. But there's just so much that we don't like. There's so much information we don't really have access to. We don't know. We're shielded, or I don't want to say shielded from it. It's kind of veiled, right? Like we're blocked from understanding that just so our souls can learn and grow. Okay, I want to show you what else fell out though. So the chariot fell out with your intuition knows the way. Okay, so you are being guided through this entire process. Do not fear that. And they always remind me to remind you to say whatever protective prayers that you feel called to say, okay, when you're connecting. And this one is spirituality, unlocking spiritual gifts. That can be anything. You can be, a teacher. You can be a doctor. You can be a veterinarian. You can be any career. It's not the career. It's you're unlocking that spiritual side of you, okay, which is going to help you. You might actually change. You might, shift completely away from the career that you were working in for so many years and, go towards, oh, dang, okay, and go towards a more spiritual path. That's possible. But it's also possible that you can just experience something that shifts your perspective and the way you treat others, the way you treat your patients if you're a doctor, the way you, I'm seeing a therapist, the way you talk to your patients will be shifted because of what you go through or what you've gone through, okay, and the healing process that you've been through. So that's also part of unlocking spiritual gifts. It's different for everyone. It really is. And then find power in the shadows. So they're showing me that tower card. So I feel like whatever it is that you went through, it was meant to remove what I'm seeing, like a classroom of young children, and there's someone who it's a very harsh energy. So it feels like these were like hard lessons learned early on, or just things imprinted on your mind. Because now I'm literally seeing like a stamp with words, and these are like negative words and negative phrases. Yeah, just have to step away for a second because I saw outside of my window a toddler walking, which is not abnormal, but the parent was not there. Um, it was like a couple of seconds. It felt like, I don't know, whatever. It was too long, what it felt like to me. So I just had to go and like see what was going on. But the parent was talking to someone and the toddler is just walking. Um, okay, so that might have happened. Oh, wow. Okay, that actually lines up with what I was seeing. Harsh things. I mean, maybe a harsh environment. Maybe you had to like fend for yourself in a way. Like your parents were there, but they just weren't able to nurture you and watch over you like you needed. Uh, Wow, that's, I would say it's a coincidence, but I don't think anything is a coincidence, okay? Um, anyway, everything was okay. The parent was there. The parent just dropped a couple of things and she was like putting things back in the bag, and the toddler was like, just wandering. It's a little chilly. So, they can't really see through their peripheral because they're bundled up. But yeah, everything's okay. And we live in a quiet area too. So, not worried about that. It's just, you know, you kids can get out, okay? That's what I was worried about. Anyway, but this kid was bundled up. It should have clicked. But whatever. So yeah, that could be the case. So what there were two songs that came through. So it was, one was a portion of "Break You Won't Break My Soul" by Beyonce. So you can look that up, listen to it. But it was the portion where, it's like release your job, release your stress, like just release it. That word kept coming through. Um, and another one. It's from an Indian movie. Um, the more recent version of it, Agnipath. But so the gist of the song is like the older brother is reuniting with his sister, who I think in the movie he thought passed away, because most of his family was killed, and he had a rough upbringing. Then, like he ran away to get away from some people who were after his family, and so like that's the setup, okay. So the gist of the song though is like, now there's still, like, translated, it's now there's still a little bit of life to live in me. So because of everything that he went through, it's kind of like he was going through life just really angry, okay, because of, just because of circumstances. Um, and then he's reunited with a member of his family, which he thought he didn't have any more family. And so it's like, kind of like that little spark is still there. Okay, that's a very, very, very simple summation of the song. You can go look it up. It's, what is it called? Abhi Mujhme Kahi. I'll put it in there, and you can look it up. And of course, you can look up the translated lyrics. The point isn't the song. The point is, the lyrics, the meaning behind it. Okay, so it doesn't matter what language it's in. Like I said, they use things that are, familiar to me, so that I can convey more accurately the information that they want out. Okay. Um, but yeah, so I think the point of all of this is because, here, we'll go here, finding power in the shadows. Like, you have to release the emotions from what impacted you as a child, even as young as a toddler, because I told you what happened, why I had to walk away like a couple of minutes ago. But you have to release it so that you can really achieve what you're meant to achieve. There is a reason for why you went through it. Like that, those events, the healing that you've gone through, it gives you a different perspective. And you'll be able to communicate better with others who are going through something similar, and then that are also going to go through this awakening, because we all are at some point in some way. Not everyone is going to, they're showing me steps. So it's like, we're not yet at that point where it's like, plateaued, where everyone is awake and everything is, you know, everyone's on the same level, in the same dimension. But we're getting there slowly. More and more people are waking up, and like, that's the thing. Okay. So you're a part of that. If you're here and you're resonating with these messages, of course it's time for you to hear them. Again, I really don't believe in coincidences. Okay. I don't remember who said it. If you've come across this statement and you know who said it, please let me know, because I'll put it in my little description, and I'll give credit to the person who deserved it, because I just love it. It's, instead of saying coincidences, they say, "Oh, dang, okay, so someone knows. Let me know." Um, it's, instead of calling it coincidences, they call it God incidences, and it's just like, there's this. I see this golden thread, between events, so it's like, everything is just divinely led. Okay, um, yeah, that's that. But okay, so they're bringing me back to like childhood. So I feel like if you have to release it, it's been difficult for you to release because these challenging isn't even the word, okay? Like I said, you may have had to grow up fast, um, and just you didn't get to be a child because you had to act like the adult in the house. Might be because you were they're showing me the eldest sister syndrome. That could be it. You know, responsibilities were placed on you because you were there and you were capable and your parents needed help. Um, okay, so I'm getting like this is kind of like a little mini movie because the way I'm seeing it is like I'm following this one family. Um, and it's the parents that are like getting up really early in the morning, and the kids have to kind of take themselves to school, like latchkey. That's because I'm seeing the key and kind of get ready, take their lunch, go to school. And it's not because the parents don't care, but it's because the parents have responsibilities. And it's very cold and like harsh. So I think it's a tough time. I want to say the 80s. Why do I want to say the 80s? What's significant about the 80s? I mean, I know for me, but I don't know. Okay, I'll get back to that, but I just want to go back to that little mini movie. And then the kids grow up, and you can see there's like this distance between the parents and the kids. But the kids get married, you know, they go through the regular or the typical checklist they're showing me in life, right? Get a job, get married, have kids. And now the children are watching their parents interact with their children. So the grandparents are interacting with the grandkids, and there is no distance. Like there's love. Um, and the children are kind of feeling a little resentful because it feels like I didn't have that, and now my parents are treating my children the way I would have loved to be treated. Okay, so I don't know if I've talked about this here. I know I've talked about this with others. It has, and many others have spoken about this. Okay, I'm not claiming this theory or this mindset at all. Um, oh, maybe that's why the 80s. Okay, for me, like it was a period of like survival. Um, okay, so it's complicated, is what I want to say. It is really complicated because that there was a time, even 20 years ago, where this stuff, all of this, was still looked upon as insanity because they're showing me like sanatorium, so like you know the like an insane asylum. Um, Spirituality still wasn't accepted. Healing wasn't something that was accepted. Forget about this healing. I mean, therapy wasn't something that was accepted. Okay, like I said, that sanatorium came up, so I think it's like even therapy that the process of talking through your emotions and talking through your feelings, talking about your experiences so that you can heal, was not something that was done. And if you went to see a therapist, it meant that you had a mental health disorder. Um, it really was still taboo even like 20 years ago. Okay, it's pretty recent that we've started to accept this. And they're also showing me like love and stress written. So I've seen that before, and I feel like that's when there's, how do I describe it? It's like when people we become competitive in a way. Is that what I want to say? Or no? Like you feel like proving your worth was determined by how stressed out you were. Um how much time you spent it. They're showing me someone like doing that army crawl um, out of their car and into their home at like in like the dead of night. So it's like you were only worth something if you were working yourself to the bone. And what happened when you did that? Your family was neglected, right? Ooh, that came through. But, there's another reading. I don't know if I scheduled it or if it's already posted, but it was titled "Money, Power, Respect" because that song is coming through again. But that's for the now. So that feels like learn from those lessons, keep your priorities in check, okay? Even if you're driven, don't neglect the interpersonal relationships that are in our lives because we learn from those too. Okay, that's also essential. But yeah, but even like 20, 30 years ago, so, it was just like they're showing me too. I don't know. Okay, listen, this doesn't mean that it's only women that do this, okay? But they're showing me two women with their kids that are like pulling them in every direction, and their hair is frazzled. Their clothes are all stained, and all they're doing is talking about I'm because I see I'm so in like those little speech bubbles. I'm so stressed. 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 I'm even more stressed. I'm more stressed out. No, I'm more stressed out. Like it's a competition. It's like my life is so much more stressful. Well, why do you want to sit in that? But that's how people were. That's what was expected of mothers, of fathers when they would go out for work, of mothers who were working outside and then they'd come home. Same thing with fathers, and then they'd come home and they were single fathers. It doesn't matter what the scenario was. It was the mentality of that time. And that's what they're telling me. You have to because they're showing me someone switching out glasses and like zooming in different ways. So you're getting different perspectives when you realize these things, when you really take a look at how society was. Okay. A name was coming through this morning, and I couldn't figure it out, and I had to look it up, and I didn't know what this had anything to do with. So the name that kept coming through was Mary Pickering. And that's all I heard was Mary Pickering, Mary Pickering, Mary Pickering. It's like, I don't know what this is. Um, but I did look it up, and the point of it was to lead me to August Comte because she wrote a book about, or like a series of, I think, 3 books about him. And he's considered the father of sociology. And that goes in line. Okay, see how everything ties together when I said there's that golden divine string of incident. You don't always know how it's all intertwined, but there's something that's linking everything. And this is just something that happened in a short time frame. Okay, this was happening to me. Mary Pickering was going off. Like I was having a hard time sleeping because I was hearing it. They were trying to wake me up and tell me to do this, but I told you I'm not the one to get up and record at like 3 a.m. I'm just not. I have learned boundaries. It took me a long time to learn those boundaries, and I'm holding on to them. Okay. Self care is something. Okay. Oh my goodness, I'm all over the place. Okay, I don't want to forget about August Comte, but you know what? Let me write it here. I'm just going to make a quick note so I remember to finish talking about his role in this message. Okay? All right, so that's there. Did I just forget about? Oh my goodness, this is the problem with receiving so many messages. What did I? Self care, self care. Okay, so now we're in a period where it might not feel about it because of all the turmoil around us, but if you look at, they're bringing me to us as individuals. Like self care is something that now is acknowledged as an important part of even just your day, right? Like you have to take that time to wind down. You have to take that time to decompress. They're showing me journaling. People are more into writing about things that they've experienced so that you're not holding on to the emotions. You get that out on paper. Um, and then it gives you a chance to reflect, right? That self-reflection is something that we have time for now because more and more people have woken up to the fact that that is necessary. And that just wasn't the case. Again, even 20 years ago, forget about when, if I'm talking about myself, forget about in the 50s and 60s when my parents were growing up. And, the 70s and 80s when other people's parents were growing up, and the experiences that their parents had and their parents, for generations, they just did not have this time. They're showing me Survivor, that that Destiny's Child song. um, yeah, people were just in survival mode because that's all they could do. There was no time for reflection. You were seen as weak, you were seen as lazy, and selfish, but that's not the case. And we know that now. So that's where giving forgiveness and that whole parent child um, dynamic comes in. So the parents were working when those children were growing up, and now that they have kids, these parents are now retired and as grandparents, right? And so that's why they've had time to reflect. They might not talk about it with you, but they've had time to think about and how they were with you, and they want to make different choices with their grandchildren because again, they were in survival mode before. They could not, there was no other way for them to be. So you have to give them that grace. I think that's where those glasses, those perspectives come in. You have to see things from their perspective too, which is why I said earlier that it's really complicated. And this is where August Comte comes in. So again, so that name Mary Pickering was coming through, and she's the author of these 3 books for August Comte, Comte, who's considered I think they called him like the philosopher, the first philosopher of science, but also known as the father of sociology, okay? Um, but when that came through, and I was guided to look him up, what I saw was he came up with like this, do you call it a table? Or maybe it's like a hierarchy of I guess the evolution of science. And so at first, mathematics is at the bottom. You have that foundation, and then from there, you start to build. You look into biology. I forgot everything. Look up Auguste Comte, and that will come up. His theory of science or his hierarchy of science, something like that. Okay. Um, but anyway, the most complex, the one that for him, in according to his theory, at the top was sociology because it's the study of human beings, and we are pretty complex. Like I just said, look at this these issues that arise from our family dynamics, our friends dynamics, our the dynamics within society, the hierarchies in society. Like it does get really complicated, and so for him, it was at the top, and mathematics, biology. So basically, every science built upon the knowledge of another science, and math is at the very bottom. So, where I just lost my train of thought. I was just visualizing that little triangle. Okay, I guess all that to say it's all complicated. I don't know. I really just lost my train of thought. Like they had me going and I went off the rails. That's my fault. I'm sorry. Okay. Anyway, it's all of this to say is that, human beings are complex, our relationships are complex. And when we're trying to heal, we have to keep that in mind, okay? You can only, don't want to say like you can only do better. I don't want to phrase this. You can only analyze your life based on the amount, or God, how do I phrase this? Because I see someone reflecting. Yeah. Okay, I guess I'll say it that way. Like you can only analyze your life with the amount of time that you've had to reflect on it. I don't think this makes sense what I'm saying. When I watch this back, I think I'm gonna be mortified at what I'm is coming out of my mouth. But that's what's coming out. I don't know. I don't know, guys. They're showing me that triangle again. There's something important about this triangle, but I feel like it's more like the building blocks. I don't know. Okay, I'll tell you what I see, and then maybe you can help me piece this together. It's not going to happen in real time. Leave it in the comments if you have a different interpretation. But I see like there's like an overlay. So they're the parents at the bottom with mathematics, and then there are the children in the middle around like biology, physics, and chemistry. and then the children are up here with sociology. So I feel like your parents were like at the very basic, the very the base of, I don't know, of the analysis of your life, I guess. I don't know, did I get it wrong? Because they're showing me someone with a sad face. Maybe I got it wrong. Or maybe I am completely misinterpreting this. Yeah, I don't know. That's I feel like that's the only way to read it. Like they had the bare minimum. You're like the older generations, I should say, not just your parents. I don't want it to be that specific, but like the older generations just had the very basics to work with. And then you were learning more, or the second generation learned more. And now this third generation is going to have a completely different experience because of everything that came before. So it was difficult, it was tough, but look at how, oh wow, okay, look at how humanity is going to benefit from all of that work and all of that, all the struggles. It's going to lead to a healthier existence for so many. Okay, all right, I guess you play a role in that. Well, like, I mean, we all do, right? Every generation is impacted by the previous generation. So, yeah, maybe that's why you have to forgive, release it, right? Remember, we said that Beyonce song, release, 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 release the stress, release it. And just know that everything happened for a reason. All right, let's try to clarify. I just have these in my hands, but I feel like taking this one. So I'm going to switch to the soul's journey. Let me just do a little, okay, humor. I choose to focus on the lighter side of life, and perseverance. I know that I can do whatever I set my mind to. We all have to persevere in some way, shape, or form. So that's going to apply to everyone, just in a different way. Okay, all right, let's see. Can you clarify or maybe clean up my message? I see mud. Yeah, I feel like I muddled it up. I'm sorry. This is wild. I acknowledge my fear, but I replace it with the insight of awareness. Denial. And this one is patience. I accept that everything happens in divine order. Okay, that is, I feel like that's very general. Maybe patience with yourself through this whole healing process. Okay, you might feel like it's something that happened so long ago, you've been working on healing it. You don't understand why you're not over it yet. But give yourself that grace too. Okay, you deserve it. And also give the previous generations grace, because it wasn't easy. It really wasn't easy back then. We're actually pretty lucky, even though, I mean, like I said before, there's so much upheaval on the outside. But we're lucky that now so much of spirituality is being more accepted. Even this, using these cards, is accepted. Like, I'm not going to get accused. They're showing me the witch trials. Yeah, you know, and 144 on the clock. All right. Yeah. Anyway, back to this. Back to denial. I acknowledge my fear, but I replace it with the insight of awareness. And I feel like I see this as like a lotus flower, though. You know, because the lotus comes up through the mud and then it blossoms into this beautiful flower. I feel like that's just our existence, right? You go through the struggles and those lessons learned, and you see life differently. I think that is where I'm being led to with this. But I'll say it again. I'll read the whole thing again. Maybe it'll apply to you differently, okay? The part is denial. I acknowledge my fear, but I replace it with the insight of awareness. Okay, so you can see what you get out of it. It might be different for you, okay? Take that time, pause it, reflect, and see what it means for you. that is what I get with that. Okay, can we give them a nice message to end with? I keep seeing forgiveness. Forgive them. And forgiveness, as they say, it's not about letting someone get away with something. It's just so that you can move on. I see fairies. Maybe someone's connected with fairies. I don't know what. That just came out of nowhere. Something flipped. Oh, purpose. See, this is all for a purpose. Everything that we go through. Purpose. I know what I am here to do. That is. But with purpose, I'm being brought back to what I said. Like you releasing these things, acknowledging what happened, that it happened, but taking the lessons from it that you can take. It's leading you to a higher timeline. So there's again that golden thread. There's a reason that it happened, and whatever you went through is going to help someone else. They're bringing me back to that family. I think this has a lot to do with like intergenerational things. So it's not that the parents didn't know how. I don't want to use that phrase, but that's what's coming out, like messed up. They feel like they messed up with their children. Um, but after that time that they had to reflect, again, assuming that they're in retirement and they've had that time and the different interactions that they're having with their grandchildren versus what it was like when they were raising their kids, it wasn't because they did not love their children. But now, because they had that time to think back, they want to make different choices. They want to make better choices. So that's the other thing. Give them the grace so that they're able to heal and, they're able to do better because they want to do better in this specific scenario, okay? Forgiveness will just help everyone, all around. It's like, okay, I know where they're going with this. You make a mistake, but you don't want to admit it. That doesn't mean you don't know that it was you that made the mistake, right? I'm going to give you what they just showed me a flash of. So when I was, I think, 9, I want to say, I feel like I was in the 2nd or 3rd grade, my brother was allowed to go to the corner store and get milk. And I just wanted to be able to do that because, I wanted to be the girl now. So they did. My parents did give me a chance to go, but my father was following me. I just didn't know it. I thought, they finally trusted me enough to let me out of the house and I could go. And it was just 4 blocks away, right? But my father still followed me. And I bought the milk. Everything was fine, but it was heavy. I bought a gallon of milk and it was heavy for me. And it wasn't the bag, okay? I dropped it. I dropped the milk and it just, the way it fell, it splattered. And then I was upset and I went home, but I didn't want to admit that I was the one who dropped the milk and that it was because then it became my fault. And then I felt like I would not be allowed to go back out and, have this responsibility or this, it didn't feel like a responsibility. It felt like something cool to do. I don't know. It felt like freedom, okay? But I didn't know that my father was following me. And so when I went home, I told them that someone bumped into me and that it wasn't my fault. I wasn't the one who dropped the milk. It wasn't me. Someone bumped into me and the milk fell, and I was like in tears. And, oh gosh, this went black. Sorry. Yeah, so, they know. All right. Just like my parents knew that it was me that dropped the milk. They know. They know when they messed up. Okay. I knew that it was me that dropped the milk. I just didn't want to admit it because it was hard for me to admit it. Um, oh, humor. We saw humor when we split this, right? Yeah. Bring a little bit of that levity, like just like how I use this example. It's not a serious example. I mean, it's like drop milk. Okay. But I used that humor to explain what it is that they wanted me to. Well, they used it because they gave me that flashback. You know what I'm saying. All right. Yeah. Bring in, wherever you can, bring in a little bit of levity and maybe reflect on the more humorous times so that it's a little easier for you to heal. That could be important for someone. Okay. I think that is it though. This is a very long message. But yeah, give yourself grace, give them grace to heal. It doesn't mean that they're going to, it doesn't mean that they're changing. But at least you know you've done your part, right? And you're not holding on to that anger because you want access to that higher timeline. You want to sit there. That is where ease and flow and learning from ease and flow comes in. Okay, so that's where you want to be. And that is the point of this whole process. All right, I think that is it. Let me know if this resonated. And yeah, have a wonderful day, wonderful night whenever you're seeing this. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.